What's up, say again?
With the bye week, you have been keeping an eye on the series.
Yeah, I actually flew home to go. I promised my little cousin I'd watch him play one high school game his senior year, so I flew home and was in Boston, or Massachusetts rather, Friday and Saturday, and they were in St. Louis, obviously playing, but definitely watched the games with my family. It was a little more intense watching it with them than it is watching it down here. So, but it was fun.
Arthur, what kind of a difference will it make having Todd and Michael Bennett on the field?
I think especially with Todd, he's the type of player. He kind of has the same, impact that an AJ Green has or Jarvis Jones. I think he's one of the guys that he has to be accounted for at all times when he's on the field. And I think for us as an offense, he really changes the way we can, attack a defense in terms of just from an emotional standpoint and momentum standpoint. He, some of the runs that you may have seen the past couple of weeks that were, 8, 9, 10, 15-yard runs, he kind of turns into 20, 30 touchdowns. I think that's the biggest impact he has as an individual. But for what he does for our team, especially on the offensive side of the ball, will be, astronomical, I think, in the long run, and hopefully for this game specifically.
You've been through this game a couple times. Just talk about what it means.
And obviously the past couple of years it's even meant more just because it's been kind of a pivotal game in the SEC East race as it is this Saturday. But from an emotional standpoint, there's so many kids from Florida and there's so many kids from Georgia on both teams that it's really, you can't really account for it like you can for another game. There's so many differences that go into it. You have high school teammates that are playing against each other. You might even in some cases you have brothers or cousins that are playing against each other. I think for a guy like Aaron Murray coming from Tampa, who his main goal was to really prove himself against Florida, and I think he's done so over the past couple of years. He's got a chance to be 3-1 against them as a starter, and for us as a team, we've been able to win the past two, and I think it was the previous 3, 4, maybe even 5. We weren't able to come out on top. So emotionally, you can't really compare it to anything else. And just from a strategic point, I think the momentum from this game, if we win or if they win, can really catapult their season down the road, which to more successes obviously. But in a case like this, where the SEC East is still up for grabs, it can really kind of make the mark of kind of someone's run. Like I think for us last year, that was kind of it.
Seems like it's been a really emotional season for you guys, going up and down, losses, great wins, injuries. How do you guys stay focused with all these up and downs emotionally for the season?
I think in years past we might have gotten away from ourselves, mentally, physically and emotionally if we were hit with this many injuries. But I think there's two things. I think there's a lot of young guys who don't really have other experience to lean on, so they're just kind of out there, going on their own reactions and their own playmaking ability. And also we got, enough veteran guys to where we realize that if, we stick to our game plan, listen to our coaches, that we still have enough talent to come out on top. Unfortunately, these past 2 weeks, there's certain things in each game that kind of we either shot ourselves in the foot or something that may have not went our way, and that's kind of why we lost. But if you take Tennessee, for instance, I think that was a big win for us because, we had so many guys go down in the midst of it, yet we were still able to come back, minute left, tied up, win in overtime. And I think similar to what, South Carolina did against Missouri, it's just they kind of relied on their senior leaders and other young guys to make plays, and I think that's what ended up happening.
There's kind of one team in the SEC that can empathize with you guys as far as injuries go. It would be Florida. I mean, they're almost as beat up, if not more, than you guys are. Is that, in fact, the moniker of this game is almost turned into the pity party as opposed to the other moniker? Just talk about that.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of one of the things, again, we're both kind of, for the guys that have been out, we've known they've been out, so we've kind of, both teams I think have been able to assess what they have available and what they will have available for the game. And so for us, obviously we're looking to have Bennett and both Todd back, two guys that have been, an intricate part of this program for us the past 2 years, and for Bennett 3 years. So we know what we're getting back. But in terms of the idea of like a pity party, I don't know if that would be the right word to, declare this game as. I think we both know what's at stake, both sides. I know for us individually, there's so much, bad blood and mixed emotions that go with, Florida, Georgia. Our head coach has never been a fan of Florida. He went to Miami, then he went to Florida State, and now he's here. You look at some of the other coaches that have been here, they've either been on Florida State staff or they played against Florida in college. So I think for us, it's just you learn to kind of despise Florida and despise your rivals, and they're kind of the same way. And fortunately for us and fortunately for them, you never need an excuse to get up for this game, whether both teams are 0-10 or both teams are undefeated. And right now, I still think there's enough football to be played for down the road. I don't think people are kind of letting go of the season. I think they realize that if for both teams, if we come out on top or if we come out on top and they lose or vice versa, there's still a chance that they could still be in Atlanta or we could still be in Atlanta. I think that only adds the motivation factor of the rivalry itself.
Can you talk about the mindsets of the team when you were a freshman going into the Georgia-Florida game versus what it's like now going into it? I mean, had some more success than you first got here.
Yeah. Well, like I said, in 2009 I played in the game, and we lost badly. That was kind of when they had their murderer's row type talent, if you want to use a baseball phrase. I think you had Tebow, Hernandez, the Coopers of the world, all those guys. It's true, but they had all those types of players that were all American type talent. And for us, we were just trying to make our mark and trying to kind of crawl back to what we had from that slow bit of the kind of varying success that we had in 2007 and obviously 2008. We kind of dipped down from what the expectations were, and Florida kept exceeding any expectations that were placed upon them. So I think in 2009, 2010, we were just trying to scratch back, and then we kind of had a really tough, not the prettiest win in 2011, but that kind of gave us some momentum. And I think now in 2012, that was another game. If they win that game, they clinch, and we kind of just playing in some whatever bowl we get picked in. Whereas we ended up having a chance to play for the game that would get us into the national championship. That's the kind of implications that is always placed upon this game, in my opinion. And from an emotional standpoint, you gotta realize that for both teams, this is just it's never, oh, we'll get them next year. It's, well, we lose, we feel it for an entire calendar year. If we win, we feel it for an entire calendar year. So that's kind of where I think we stand. And momentum, I don't think, plays a big part of it, especially not for us because of the way we won the past 2 years. It wasn't in a dominating fashion. It was more of like, okay, we're biting our nails until the end of the last whistle.
Time for one more. Here. Thank you.
Yep.